Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Alright, so we've been off for a couple of weeks, and Steve, unfortunately that was my fault. I had to go out and get COVID, didn't I? So I was out for a little while just trying to recover from that. Not fun, don't recommend it. But it's just what it is, and thankfully now we're back online, so it's all good.
Welcome back, Ben. Good to have you back.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to jump straight into it. And there was a topic I wanted to get into a couple of weeks ago because it's a couple of weeks old now, but I did want to cover it again. It was this YouTuber that agreed to plead guilty to charges after he intentionally crashed his plane for views. Now, I read the story and then I said, oh, well, I've got to go watch the video myself. And I watched it and I was just like, how did he ever think, well, first of all, how did he ever think that anyone would think that it wasn't staged? Because it was like all the cameras just happened to be in the right place to capture everything perfectly. But then it was like, I guess the main thing was, what's the lengths that people are going to go to on YouTube to get views?
Yeah, look, I love this. I thought the video was great, even though it was quite obviously, it looked to me like a telly movie, to be honest. Like, you know, but that aside, what lengths? Yeah, and why? Because, you know, for all of the everything I like about that video, it doesn't have the edge of a real drama. You know, he's acted well, but he's not going to get an Academy Award for it. And even his great camera angles and the way it's stitched together, it's just cinematically, it doesn't quite cross the line. So I'm not surprised he got caught out.
Well, I was a bit suspicious when I saw that, he had a camera on every part of the plane, covering every angle, conveniently there.
Isn't that what you do these days when you go out for a flight?
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me, absolutely. So anyway, I should have actually looked up what ended up happening to him, but he got the job done. I think it was like 4 million views on that clip, which means he would have gotten a truckload of ad revenue out of it, and it's still up there as far as I can see, generating views.
Well, look, you know, he did what he did. Would it have been all right if he hadn't faked it? And just said, I just crashed my plane. I went out and crashed my plane deliberately. You know, I guess. Well, what difference does it make? They do it in Hollywood.
Well, that's the thing. Like if he'd just gone out and gotten a clearance or something, he might have gotten away with it because then the authorities wouldn't have come in and said, "Hey, what's going on here?"
Well, that's right. but Hollywood crash planes like that all the time. It's never a problem. Yeah, and they'd love 4 million views.
That might be the saddest indictment of all.
Maybe he just needs Leonardo in the cockpit next time.
Absolutely. Alrighty, let's move on to our main topic, which was the WWDC announcements and obviously the Vision Pro, that, you know, the stop the press moment, the one more thing moment that they love to roll out every now and then. But before we get into the Vision Pro stuff, I did want to just touch on, I did like the 15-inch MacBook Air that they released. Not that that's revolutionary or anything, but I thought, you know, this is the first time Apple's offering a larger screen laptop that's not for the Pro model, so it's reasonably priced if you're in quotation marks. You know, they did release a few new Macs, and the thing is, it's telling, isn't it, that the Macs have gotten so good, and obviously they had a lot of time to cover for the Vision Pro, that they just slammed through the whole announcement real quick of all the new Macs that they released, even though it was a software developer conference. So that was quite interesting, and if it just reinforced that the Mac has never been better, really.
I totally agree. I think the Mac is their premier product, and, you know, the rest of them, as we talk about from time to time, you know, a little bit uneven in their offerings, let's say. So, but I think the Mac range, since they moved to the M chips, just absolutely unbelievable.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to have to spend a bit of time now talking about the Vision Pro. Now, obviously, there was the whole thing about the software announcements as well for WWDC, so we're not going to cover that today because it's the usual thing. To me, it all just seemed a bit incremental again in terms of how it is, but that's how it kind of rolls these days. But the Vision Pro was the stop the press moment. So, a high-tech pair of ski goggles that can, get you this amazing VR, AR experience. Now, we'll go into the pros and cons in a minute. Maybe starting out with the positives, it is a pretty impressive piece of tech in terms of its implementation. You can tell that Apple went an extra step, which is what they are known for, which is to put a lot more tech into the device to make it supposedly simpler to use. So you don't actually have to have any hand controllers, for instance, because the goggles can actually pick up your hand movements. The eye tracking seemed phenomenal, that it was apparently super accurate based on the people that tested it, and just flicking your eyes around, it's able to select things on the screen without a problem apparently. So there's a lot of things in there that are really interesting from a tech angle, and you can see why they're it's an expensive device, but at the same time, looking at the negatives as well, it still just doesn't fundamentally solve the problem of a VR headset. Now, I did like the narrative that they were building around it, the idea of a spatial computer, even though that's a bit hokey. But I thought that, like when you consider how ridiculous the Facebook metaverse, keynote was, and that just didn't look compelling at all. At least with Apple's version, they kind of were saying, well, we're going to take your traditional computing experience into this new platform for you to use. So their focus was more on you can still use the apps in the same way, even though they'll look different in the environment. You have the ability to scale in or scale out of the immersiveness of the environment, which I thought was important because it's not like you can have the full VR experience if you want, but you can dial it all back as well. And it seemed that they solved a problem around, like, if you're actually interacting with real world objects, you're not gonna that latency isn't there where you won't actually touch the thing at the right time, kind of thing. So there was a lot of impressive things in there. But anyway, I'll let me know what your thoughts, Steve, because quite frankly, I thought it was super impressive, but it was a super impressive device that I don't think anyone really needs to have.
Oh, look, Ben, I think this is a next level device. I think it's super impressive. I think it's amazing. And I think it's Apple probably doing their innovative best in terms of a piece of equipment. But now, we can poke a bit of fun at it because you're absolutely right. It's a device that nobody needs, but they can sell. And I'm not surprised, actually, they released it at the Software Developers Conference because they need somebody to make content for it. So I can imagine that the people most likely to buy it in the first instance will be the software developers. And hopefully someone there has a great idea. And what we're seeing here is the first iteration of a device that will become sort of, important for somebody. I think it'll actually be a specialist device in the future more than a recreation device. So, wow, it is impressive. It does look amazing, but I think it has to have a specialist application. And I think, if anyone will be able to find that, it'll be Apple with the quality of what they've produced. When you compare it to, say, what Meta are doing with their headsets, Meta's really gone for the lowest common denominator. Like, it's an experience in shopping, or it's an experience in somebody monetizing a computing experience. And you realize that when you look at the features that Apple has got on there, while the use case might be currently fairly limited, it's more about capability and what could be, rather than trying to tell you what you should have one for today.
One thing that did stick out to me during the whole unveiling of it all was that Apple had really strict controls on how it was actually being photographed by the media, for lack of a better word, which Apple's well known for as well. They really strictly control the message, but it was telling that they didn't seem to want to show anyone actually wearing it and using it. And apparently there was another head strap that went over the top of your head that was never shown as part of the materials that went to the press. I assume because maybe for head size or something it needed more support or something to keep it firmly attached or something. I don't know what that extra head strap was, but I just thought it was interesting that it obviously also suggests that as good as it is, and maybe it demos well, maybe it really isn't quite there yet.
I suspect it's a little bit more subtle than that. And car companies have been doing this for years. So in a particular advertising campaign, you may not see the car from a certain angle because they will have determined already that people don't like the car from that angle. And I suspect, and it'd be interesting what other people think, but let's face it, no one looks good in a pair of VR goggles. Like no one. Right, so there's no way in the world, if you remove a person's facial features, they can look good. They look like a zombie, they look like a cyborg, they look awful. And if you have a second strap over the top of your head, so you can't see any hair features or less hair features, and then all you can see are these really reflective fly-like eyes, you ain't going to sell a lot of headsets.
Absolutely. I think the other thing worth focusing on is I guess it kind of raised the topic of the infiltration of tech into people's lives. And I could spin off all of Tim Cook's anecdotes about how Apple's about enriching people's lives. He says it about 1,000 times a year or something like that, to keep everyone happy. But you can't get around the fact that people are already commenting, have already been commenting for years that the phone is already intrusive enough. You get people that are just using it to the detriment of social interaction and that sort of thing, and also changing attention spans and whatever. So, and this device to me which I think has already been brought up in the context of VR headsets before, it's even more intrusive because it goes one step further and effectively covers you up. Now, in terms of, sensors and whatnot, your eyes and whatnot. Yes, Apple had a story around you have the ability to allow the outside world in. But I didn't think, but it still doesn't really get around the fact that you're shutting yourself off as soon as you put one of these goggles on.
Well, to use a ski goggle analogy, you walk around the streets with just some ski goggles on and it's a very different experience for you and everyone else. And I think this is connected to what we've just discussed with the look. One, you don't look good. Two, it's introspective. So, I mean, the people or the target market probably are software developers because they're sitting alone in their rooms. I won't say bedrooms, just general rooms in their house, by themselves, so no one's looking at them. No one's, and you could have an immersive experience. The other thing about a fully immersive experience is phones aren't fully immersive. Phones, you can still sort of hear, you still can look up and you can, engage with your phone. Once you slip on the goggles, whatever you're looking at is right there in front of your eyes. And as you say, it robs your other senses. So it's actually a little bit overloading, I think. Yeah, no, put ski goggles on, that's bad enough. Put a computer in those ski goggles. You're not doing anything social.
And I think it's borne out by the fact that a lot of the reaction to the VisionPro headset has raised all of these concerns as well. Like it's a strange product. It's not like when the iPhone was first released and everyone went wow, and it was like obvious. This one seems to be wow, this is amazing, but
you can't take a selfie with those goggles on.
Yep, exactly. I will say, though, that I was quite surprised in the presentation that they actually thought that it was good to advertise a feature that you could take videos with it and, well, shoot 3D videos with it that you could then relive later. That whole sequence was just creepy to me, like the father with the goggles on staring at his kids through it, and it just wasn't a good image. I'm surprised they actually even allowed that through.
Can you imagine the marketing meeting where they came up with that? What can we do with this? Tell them about the 3D movie feature.
Well, I think they should have just stuck with, the person on the couch, manipulating objects in space rather than going with some of that stuff. But I guess they had to,
watching Super Bowl in 3D. I don't know.
Exactly. I guess just finally, I think they were correct in positioning it with the Pro label on it. Aside from the fact that automatically guarantees that it has to be charged at a higher price. But I think also just conceptually having it as a Pro device automatically puts it into the hands of, like you're saying, people like developers who need to take advantage of it. And also those high-end specialist applications that it's needed for. So, where you might need an immersive environment in a very technical field, for instance, it could be useful in that respect.
Oh, totally. And, I think it is a niche device. I'd actually be curious as to know how many they actually expect to sell. But I'm sure it's sizable. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist.
Absolutely. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there. We're not going to see this headset until next year anyway. I think it doesn't come out in the States until early next year, and we probably won't see it here in Australia at an Apple store near you, probably later in the year. So we've got plenty of time to ponder the meaning of its existence.
I guess it'll take them that long to get it to work.
Absolutely. All right, so don't forget to check out our website, SciTechCulture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our YouTube and Vimeo channels, RSS feeds, and watch us on any and all of your devices, and we greatly appreciate your visits to our website. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.